Alright, so how you update the budget tabs is what I'll cover next, and that's the three tabs, three purple tabs on the bottom here, the overall budget, primary budget, and secondary budget. And what this is essentially, if you remember in the setup tab, we set up a primary income and a secondary income. The primary budget is tied to the primary income, and the secondary budget is tied to the secondary income, and both of these add together to create your overall budget. On this overall budget tab, you'll notice some buttons across the top, and the first two buttons I won't cover because it's more advanced, and you don't really need it to create your budget, and not many people use these two options. But the other three buttons are for showing and hiding the different tabs. In the first video I talked about, a lot of these tabs will disappear. Here are ways to bring them back or to hide them. So what do you do on this overall budget tab? Again, if you look at the yellow colored cells, that is what you can edit, and the blue is what you cannot. So if I'm clicking in here, nothing's happening. I can do things out here if I'd like to make Excel calculations or try to figure something out, but again, the yellow is what you want to focus on. So what you need to do is determine how you want to divide your your money up. How do you want to budget for your items? Some people, you have very generic columns or very generic envelopes, like house and cars, and that may include a lot of things. You can determine how you want to divide up your money, as specific or as generic as you'd like. The more generic, though, the harder it will be to really track and analyze how you're spending. The more specific, it'll be more detailed, so it might be more difficult to actually maintain, but you'll at least be able to know where every penny is going. So it's kind of up to you how generic or specific you want to get. Here, what you do is the budget already has some suggested envelopes. These are just some of the popular ones. You'll have to edit this to be specific and applicable to you and your family. So going through here, what you'll do is you'll determine how you want to name this. This is like automobile, gas. Maybe you just want it to say gas. Make it specific for how you will interpret your envelopes. The more you customize it to fit your needs, the more apt you'll be to actually use it. So mortgage/rent. If you are renting, you just type in rent. Maybe you just want to say house payment, because that's what you always have called it. So you'll go through and edit these envelopes. Let's say you don't want to break out your utilities between your electric and gas. Let's say you just want to say utilities. So I deleted one and changed the wording. So you may have some holes within your envelopes here. So if I go through and delete some, let's say this is what I settled on, is what the envelopes I want, and let's say maybe I can add one called hunting, because it's a hobby that you want to budget for. So instead of having all these holes in here, what you'll want to do is you'll want to condense your envelopes so that they're all side by side. So I'll just copy and paste these envelopes, and so that it moves them up. So you can copy using the keyboard, Control C and Control V, or the buttons up top here, copy, paste, and then you want to delete out the extra ones. So I'm just going to do that real quick. Move everything up so that everything is condensed. So these are the envelopes that we've decided on. Now, what do you do with those envelopes? On the primary budget, again, you're going to have to determine how you want to break up your primary and your secondary income. And so on the primary budget, you'll notice this difference box on the right here. And again, the yellow is what you can edit, the blue is what you can't. So here, this is the area that we need to focus on. If you look at the setup tab, the primary income was primary net income was 18,200. What this difference tab does is it determines how much money you have left to try to allocate to your different envelopes. So it was 18,200. 1,800 of it is already spoken for in the tithe, so we have $16,380 left to try to put in the rest of these envelopes. So let's just say, and for an example like gas here, you may not know the yearly amount because this is what you need to put in the yearly amount, but you may say, I think I spend $20 a week. So you can use Excel formulas and do an equal sign 20 times 52 weeks in a year, and that'll come up with the yearly amount. So you can do that throughout. Maybe your car insurance is you pay it twice a year and it's $500. So you can do equals 500 times 2. So you can do that all the way throughout. I'm just going to put in a fake number all the way down. So again, if you look at this scenario, I filled up all my envelopes and I have 4,840 left over. That's not real accurate because some of these envelopes need a lot more money than 500. So let's just assume that some of these are a little higher. And okay, so now here in the example, our difference is negative. The goal here is to get your difference to equal 0. You want every penny in your income divided up into each envelope. So here I'm 660 over budget, so I need to find areas to cut. So let me take savings out and let me subtract out of vacation. So here my difference is 0, and that's what I want. And all of my envelopes are full with how I'm going to budget it. And this is just in my primary income. That's not always the case. Sometimes you have to use your secondary income to also fund envelopes. But in this example, all of my envelopes were full, except the savings envelope. If you look at the overall budget tab, you'll see the primary income added in or into the overall budget. Now, what your secondary income, you're going to do the exact same thing. Here, I have $20,000 left to put into my envelopes. In my example, my primary budget already covered everything other than savings. So my secondary income, I really have the freedom to put wherever I want. So let's say I want to put, let's say $10,000 in savings for the year. I have $10,000 left, and then let's say I want to also put some extra money towards vacation and clothes. I don't know. You'll have the luxury to try to figure out what you want to do with that money. But again, the goal is to make this equal 0. So when I'm all done, the difference should be 0 on your secondary income. The difference should be 0 on your primary income, and both of those will add together to make your total budget. So as you can see, my savings is higher, my vacation's higher, my clothes is higher because I added up both primary and secondary budget, and that does that automatically for me. So that's how you figure out your budget. It's essentially you have an overall budget, and your primary income is tied to your primary budget, and your secondary income is tied to your secondary budget, and that all rolls together to make your overall budget. When you're done with this, the hide budget button will hide all 3 columns. So again, we've talked about setup, where you'll be able to hide that. Let me go back to overall budget, and if I hit hide budget, it'll hide those 3 columns. So I'm only down to 3 columns left, and I will talk about how to finish the setup because we are almost done.